I've been playing something a little different, and when I wrote down my thoughts, I write them down on my iPad as I'm playing a game, just to kind of, when I'm talking about a game then on a podcast, I can follow it. I found myself unable to talk about just this one game. I needed to talk about the other game from this developer, and the developer's is SuperGiant Games, and the game I was playing was Transistor. Now, Transistor is the sequel, or it's not really a sequel as in sequentially following on, but it's made by the same developer, and it's in the same kind of style as the game that they made before it, called Bastion. And I find it's impossible to talk about Transistor without talking about Bastion at the same time. So I'll mainly be talking about Transistor, which I did finish about a week and a half ago. And, well, you'll find out if I finished it now. I'll tell you at the end. And I played Bastion last year. I finished that last year. Both games are a hell of a lot similar from its top-down, isometric kind of top-down action RPG elements. Bastion is more of it kind of builds the level as you walk in, not in a kind of roguelike way, but it's a structured level, but that you can't see where you are, and it's putting these like hexagonal pieces in front of you like a path as you walk in. Bastion's got this kind of Old West kind of feel to it in the kind of weapons that Bastion uses. Not Bastion, I can't even remember the boy his name wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's using a bow and arrow, and he's using shotguns and sort of weapons like that. And where Bastion used more, there was more reliance on combat, Transistor does something a little bit different, and the RPG mechanics are more inherent, not in like in Bastion, you can upgrade your weapons and you can up in that kind of RPG style with weapon trees. In Transistor, it's got that top-down isometric, and yes, it's got the usual elements of getting new weapons and everything like that, but there's this extra element, which I'll talk about shortly. They both have a narrator as well. Now, the narrator in Bastion sounds like this big black man with this deep voice, and but when the narrator talks in Bastion, he's basically telling you about what you're doing in the game. Yep. So if you fall off the edge, you're like, oh, the boy fell down. And it's just simple things like that, but it added some real funny, quirky element to the game, which I really, really liked. Unfortunately, in Transistor, your narrator is your sword, and your sword is called the Transistor. It inserts into things as well. And right at the beginning of the game, the story seems to be that this singer has been framed for a murder, and it seems as if this sentient talking sword has been possessed by the person who was killed by it. So the sword gets inserted into, we find out a little bit later that it's the singer, her name is Red. It's probably a love interest of hers. His soul has gone into this sword, and now it's talking to her. But the narration in it is, it's trying to be something. It's pretentious, basically. I used the word earlier. It's trying to be something it's not. It's the way he talks it's just not funny. It's just constantly trying to revere in memory and things that just didn't speak to me, and the way he talks as well was annoying. It's always talking like this. Hey, Red, do you know where we are? We're here. So you just come out with a whole sentence. It just means nothing, We're here. So little bits like that niggled me. The story isn't anything new. Like I said, this Red has obviously found her boyfriend dead with this, and then all of a sudden his soul's in this sword. So she goes on a chase to shut down these people who are in charge of the city, who are obviously done this murder. Now, the differences in the gameplay itself between Bastion, like I say, Bastion is more of a straightforward, if you've played any kind of top-down two-stick, dual-stick action RPG shooter, like Enter the Gungeon, you feel at home with Bastion.
Yep.
Transistor adds this extra element. It controls exactly the same, It adds this extra element where it's called turn. You press the ZR button and it pauses time. The screen goes black and the enemies are highlighted, so it looks like you're looking into computer code.
Mm.
And then you've got a set amount of time, which is this blue bar at the top of the screen. And when you do any action, it deducts some of the time. So if I walk a little bit, the time starts running down. If I press an attack button, the time starts going down. So there's this extra RPG element where you can pause time completely, plan out a series of attacks, and then play time. And she will then automatically follow your commands. Once she's followed those commands, you've got a cooldown and you can't attack again until the bar refills itself for it depends on how many attacks you've used, It could be anywhere between 2 seconds and 7 seconds. And that 7 seconds is a long wait when there's a lot of enemies on screen trying to kill you. And there's nothing you can do. The weapon kind of elements in it is that you're collecting, as you're going through the game, there are more dead people. You're collecting their souls into the sword, and you get these little glyphs, basically, because it's got this kind of computer element to it, just like when you pause in turn, it turns it into like a computer overlay. Well, these glyphs are like mods for your sword. And what I do like about Transistor is these mods can be used in any combination. So you can use one mod as the primary mod and then use a different primary mod to add in as a secondary mod. And then it will change the way your weapon attacks based upon those secondary and primary functions. So there's a hell of a lot you can do in it. Where in Bastion, you had your weapons and you upgrade your weapons. You just stuck with your weapons. In Transistor, the amount of variety and choice of weapons is completely up to you. And you have to be careful because when you take damage, your health bar's in the bottom. If your health bar gets knocked to 0, one of those mods will blow up and overload. Then you get a full health bar again. You've got 4 mods at any one time. So in essence, you have 4 health bars. Once you clear a wave of enemies, it resets. But if you've overloaded any mod, you've lost that for about 15 to 20 minutes of the game until you can regenerate it by visiting so many computers that can fix the mods. It's an interesting system. It just felt really clunky and slow because of pausing the game all the time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not a choice where you can go, right, I'm not going to pause the game. I'm going to go in action based and dodge. And she doesn't dodge like in Bastion. Bastion had this wonderful mechanic of dodging so you could get out of more trouble very easily. She doesn't. And so you don't have a choice of, I want to play it action based or I want to play turn based. You're going to have to be using turn based elements all the time. And it really slows down. It feels clunky and it feels, if you do something slightly wrong and then you're beset by enemies in your cooldown phase, it can be really frustrating as well. The story didn't hit me. It's just, well, let's push to the end. Basically, I didn't finish this game. And the problem why I didn't finish it is that I came to an area and I progressed through a door. And then as you go through the door, you come to this other area called the back room. The back room is like a training room. So you can train different skills up and then you come back out. I came out to the back room into the area I just come out from. And there's 4 walls. I'm stuck there. I'm like, I must have done something wrong. So for about 15 minutes, I was trying to find my way back to where I came from or find a new way out of there. And I can't find a way to progress. The game is glitched. 7 hours into the game. And I know I'm on the final boss. I'm pushing towards the final boss because already the sword has told me like, this is the last one. Doing his husky, I'm dead kind of thing. And then 7 hours in and the game glitches. I can't muster the energy or the enthusiasm needed to start the entire game again.
I don't blame you.
So I forget it. Yeah, I never see the end of it. I might just watch the end on YouTube just to see how it ends. But there's no way I'm going to see my way through it.
That's a shame. I have almost finished Bastion, and I really enjoyed it.
Bastion was fun.
Yeah. And I've got this on my wish list, actually, Transistor. So it's disappointing that...
Did you like the narrator in Bastion?
In Bastion, yeah, I thought it was great. And the story's good in Bastion as well. I enjoyed everything about it. The combat, the graphics, the story. It's French Canadians for you, isn't it?
Yes.
Pretentious.
So pretentious. But Bastion's not pretentious, you know? Bastion is
Bastion was their first game.
Yeah,
and it was massively successful, and they were just like, well...
Let's do the French pretension. They've done it well then.
Yeah.
Because it rubbed me up the wrong way completely.
No, I saw trailers for Transistor and thought it looked great. And obviously with it being from the same studio, they've got Bastion's a solid game, so that's a shame.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.